Oh, my hair looks terrible.
And we're live. There you go. Let's do some adjustments. Hi, everyone. This is Wally and Nanette.
And Nanette.
And Nanette. Hi, everyone. This is Wally.
And Nanette.
There we go. We're back on track here. Long day, folks. This was a long day for me. I'm sure a long day for Nanette. Mm-hmm. Nanette has school. Tell everybody what you're doing right now. To give you a little credit because you are working your behind off.
I'm getting my associates in the Teacher Education Foundation program, and I'm taking a class on diversity right now that is kicking my butt. Time-wise, it's a huge.
It's butt. Yeah,
it's a huge
commitment. So I go to bed at 12 o'clock, 12:30, and then that's in here pounding away on homework for another half hour to an hour every flipping night. Every single night.
It's a lot right now.
It is a lot. Tonight is exciting, though, because we have Brittany and Dylan from Dab Exotics and Scaled Up Expos joining us. And we're going to talk about reptile shows. We're going to talk about what makes a successful reptile show and how in the world, this is so mind-blowing, how in the world in 2 years, Dylan and Brittany started a reptile show that has grown so huge and so successfully. We're going to find out, folks, how they did it. They're going to spill the beans on what makes Scaled Up Expos such a successful reptile show. And if you've never been to one, this is a Wisconsin, for right now, I'm thinking it's a Wisconsin-based reptile show. I think that they're expanding to California, New York, and Texas coming up in the next 3 months. Oh. But we'll find out more about that.
So we're going to get to travel?
We're going to travel, yeah.
Cool.
Well, they're going to,
I don't know if we can handle more than 2 hour drive, though. I mean, it seems to be an issue for you.
It does seem to be an issue.
Anything more than a day drive is a problem.
Yeah, I'm getting old and my bones get stiff in the car. And yeah.
Cranky old man.
So tell us who's here.
Question. I have a question before you go there. Is it DAB or DAB? I need to have that clarification.
No, I call it DAB, but we'll
No,
find
you don't.
out.
You just called it DAB.
I did call it DAB.
Yeah, and I'm confused.
It depends. It depends if the minute hand is on the odd or on the even, I guess.
I'll ask them. They can answer it. Thanks.
They probably, if anybody should know, it should be Dylan and Brittany, right?
You would hope.
Okay, who's here in the net? I want to fly through here.
That was hard. Emily's here. Frank is here. Supreme Gecko came. Look at that. Laura Taylor's here. Maybe they should show up. J Bug is here. Laura, Jennifer's here. Jennifer, Deco Garage. Frank, I said Jennifer.
Mr. J. I haven't seen you around in a long time.
Bugs and Beans. Mr. J. I don't know who that is.
Did you say Bugs and Beans?
Bugs and Beans.
That's another
Beings.
Bugs and Beings.
Cassandra Poe.
Hi, Cassandra.
Angie's here. Angie,
hi, Angie.
He's out there tonight.
Are you like in the middle of the North Woods and trying to get some reception with your phone?
Or are you at home?
Relaxing? Or are you at home now?
Crazy Bugs and Pods.
Xeno Geckos is here.
Thank you.
Xeno Gecko. It's not
Nerd.
Supreme Geckos. It's Supreme Gecko. Xeno Gecko is here.
And Gecko Nerd.
And Gecko Nerd is here. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. This is
did
really
Brittany
special.
And Dylan come or not?
No, I don't know. I talked to them a while back. They said that they're eating pizza. They're
Good
out at Pizza Hut. I don't know where.
Ooh,
no, they're in the back room. I don't know what to call the back room.
What back room? We have a back room.
Yeah, we've got to call it something like the Gecko back room.
The green room.
The green room.
Well,
green room is taken by the Tonight Show.
Yeah, the green room was also the room that was detention in high school.
Yes, it was. Was that Wilmot?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we both went to the
Not
same
that I've
school.
ever been there.
Right. I think you just spilled the beans on that one.
Yeah, maybe.
So a couple of real quick notes. And we're going to bring Dylan and Brittany on screen, and we're going to talk about, again, Scaled Up Expos, which is going to be an exciting discussion. We're also going to talk about DAB
or DAB
Exotics and find out the scoop on what they call it. But I wanted to mention just real quick, we are at Supreme Gecko, the middle of the breeding season. So
the geckos are breeding.
The geckos are breeding. We're in the middle of the gecko breeding season. Thank you very much for the clarification. Angie says that she's home now.
Good.
And what's really cool is that I get to go downstairs, I get to feed, and I get to move animals around, and I get to fix electronics, which I hate. That's not fun.
Not cool.
I get to wash dishes, and I get to do a lot of different things downstairs, but I get to find eggs, I get to put away eggs, and I go in the incubators, and our 2 main incubators right now are full. I seriously, I can't get another gecko into either one of the
You
incubators.
shouldn't put geckos in there.
Our eggs are filling up the incubators. Thank you very much for clarifying all this, because I'm just kind of rambling all over the place. But the fun thing is that we're finding some pretty cool animals and babies coming through hatching in these incubators, like banded geckos. We've got some knobtails coming through. Leopard geckos, crested geckos, gargoyle geckos are hatching just about every single day. Picta geckos every single day. But now we're getting some of these other animals. One of the special animals that we're starting to get eggs from are 3 different Australian velvet geckos, Oidura and Robusta, and it's fun to see animals that I've never bred before getting eggs and seeing babies. So stay tuned to the Supreme Gecko channel to make sure that you watch our videos, because in the next few months, we're going to be preparing some care videos on some animals that we haven't really done a video on ever. So that should be exciting. And that's exactly why I started the Supreme Gecko channel, was to show care and babies and the adults of some of these rare geckos, because there just isn't any information out on some of them. So another point. Yeah, go ahead.
I can see Dylan and Brittany in the back room.
Are they? Oh, they just came in. No, they've been there the
Dylan
whole
looks
time.
mad.
I'm sure, because
He's got
now
this
it's 7
frown
minutes.
because you've got him like.
I'll mention one more thing. I want to thank everybody that has partaken in the Buy Me a Coffee program. Partaken. They've joined the Supreme Gecko Buy Me a Coffee program. We're doing a lot of different things there. We introduced a video, How to Turn Your Hobby into a Business, had huge success as a members only, and I just recently published that publicly, and we're getting a lot of questions off of that. We've set up consultations off of how to turn your hobby into a business. But if you don't know about the Supreme Gecko Buy Me a Coffee program, it's a way to support Supreme Gecko, help us get some of the equipment that we're using. None of the money goes into the geckos. None of it goes into you going onto Amazon Prime and buying all kinds of things, or crystals, dolls, or anything.
Does
like
it go
that.
into like a timer so that it beeps when you need to stop?
So
talking?
you're saying buy a timer with the money that we're getting. So if you want
so
to,
that you can stop rambling.
yes,
because
if
then
you want to donate to the Supreme Gecko
could
Buy
just
Me a
hit a
Coffee
buzzer.
so that we can buy a timer. So
Or
it
a
makes me
buzzer that I
stop
could go
talking. Just end the broadcast kind of thing. Okay, let's bring out Dylan and Brittany here.
Thank
I've known
God.
Dylan. So I usually start a conversation like this because I'm as old as dirt. I've known these people for 22 years because I'm that old. Because I have been around a long time, and I've met and made some great friends in the hobby. I've known Dylan and Brittany, I think,
Not
like
22
3
years.
not 22. I don't even think Brittany or Dylan is
That's
20
my point.
years old. So I've had the fortune to know them for a while, but not a long time. But in that very, very, very short time period, I feel like I've made some wonderful, wonderful friends, and made a connection with some wonderful reptile keepers that have the same passion, same interests as we do here at Supreme Gecko. And that's I feel that's kind of a rarity. And it's been a pleasure to work with them over the last few years, and it's been a blast to see them introduce reptile shows into Wisconsin and see these reptile shows take off. We've had a couple of shows going for a while, and then we lost one, and we've been fortunate to have Sewerfest, but now we have shows all over Wisconsin because of Brittany and Dylan. So Brittany and Dylan have been going for a while with Dab Exotics, but now they have Scaled Up Expos, and now they have Scaled Up Expos, and we're going to talk about Scaled Up Expos reptile shows, and also about their new venture into La Crosse, Wisconsin. Why in the world would they ever go to La Crosse, Wisconsin? Because that's so far away from Wally and Nanette. So let's bring Dylan and
It's all about you,
Brittany, on the line. Hi guys, how are you doing?
Hi.
How's it going?
Do you still want to be here?
Yeah, now that the show is over.
Yeah, we've been enjoying it from the back room.
Mm-hmm.
you finish your pizza run and you're all set? You
Just
We
sat
did,
down.
yeah.
Just sat
Yeah.
down.
Is it DAB? Is it DAB?
It's Dab Exotics.
It's a lot easier that way.
Told you.
Mhm.
I told you.
I've heard it both ways. I just didn't know.
So we've known each other. I don't know. How long have we known each other? Is it like 3 years ish? 4?
Like
Was it
5, I
pre-COVID?
think. 2018 for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
18, okay.
pre-COVID.
Okay. And
yeah,
I know
we
that
started walking around the reptile shows a little like 2016, 2017, but we started vending in 2018. So
Mhm.
I know that, and we're going to talk about what got you into the reptiles and everything, but I know that we were fortunate enough to jump into, if I'm not mistaken, the very first show that you did at Green Bay in 2000. Was it 2019?
19. Yes.
19? Oh, wow.
Mhm.
Wow. I said 2, but that's what, 4? That's 4 years ago. So, and I want to say just real quick to kind of lead up to some of the questions that we're going to. I don't see anything quick. To lead up to some of the questions that I have for you guys, I tentatively and reluctantly decided to do the Green Bay show, just kind of to expand on Supreme Gecko, get more exposure. And it was in all of our shows, all of our new shows are pretty much, we're not going to sell anything. That's the expectation. This is all promotion. This is all exposure. We're going to meet new people. Hi, Jody. We're going to meet new people. We're going to network, and we're going to talk about geckos. We're going to get the passion out there. And we got there, and we set up, and nice, comfy showroom. Nice vendors, talking to vendors. This should be fun. And about 5 minutes before doors opened, I learned that there was a line like 23 miles long out of the door waiting to get in. Seriously, I think it wrapped around the building. It was a huge, huge line. Doors opened, and we were busy from minute 1 to the end of the show. As a first show, again, that's unprecedented. And it was right after that, I believe, that you guys decided to move it to a bigger building, bigger facility, and kept that going. So credit to you guys for expanding this, and we're going to talk more about the shows in just a second. But I want to find out first, who is Brittany? Who is Dylan? Tell us a little bit about yourselves, non-business, non-reptile show, if you wouldn't mind.
Ooh, that's hard.
yeah,
That's hard. The hobby is our life.
yeah.
So, yeah, we don't do very much outside of reptiles and outside of the show.
Yeah, if it's not if it's not our own shows, we're vending other people's shows. During the week, it's a lot of time in the gecko room and time online, doing stuff for the expos and stuff like that. So I mean, other than that, I guess other interests I have, I enjoy stock car racing. That's kind of gone by the wayside a little bit since the reptiles have taken over. But yeah, I'd say about 98% of the time is reptile related in one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Brittany? What do you do outside of the reptiles, outside of the shows? Movies? Are there any kind of other hobbies? Pets?
I am big into like Netflix and watching that in my spare time. So like Bones or Grey's Anatomy, that sort of thing. I'll do that in my spare time. But I also do that when I'm cleaning geckos or doing show stuff. So yeah.
You have something on all the time while you're working with the animals?
All the time. Mm-hmm.
That's kind of us too. Talking about the animals, what got you guys into reptiles? What started this whole process out? What started you guys keeping reptiles? And maybe it wasn't reptiles. Maybe it was something related to reptiles that gradually moved you into reptiles.
So when we first moved in together, we started keeping fish, just on a very small scale. And to make a long story short, what really happened is we were at the pet store getting fish supplies. We saw this guy holding a baby bearded dragon, and it was so intriguing, to me especially at the start. Like it was really intriguing. So we went home and did our research and Kind of started off the way that everybody does, and ended up going back to the store and getting a bearded dragon, and then bearded dragon led to a leopard gecko, and it's like, well, if you have one leopard gecko, you might as well have two leopard geckos, and now it's a male and a female. And if you have a male and a female, it's natural it comes next, and then from there, 2 turned into 4, turned into I don't even know how many, to be honest, at this point. A lot.
How many fish tanks did you have when you started the reptile venture?
The fish world was short-lived for us. We only had the one tank, and once we started with the reptiles, we learned rather quick. I mean, you know how it is with the water changes and stuff. In my opinion, the reptiles are way easier, way easier. I don't enjoy the water as much as I do. I guess scraping gecko poop, right? But
6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I'm
basically, right?
I'm kind of the same way. So you started reptiles with bearded dragons, which I think like 95% of everybody starts with a bearded dragon because they're so cool and they're so easy to handle. They're available all over the place, and stores can sit. And there's a lot of great pet stores, but pet stores can sell a bearded dragon for $30 and sell all the supplies for $250 that you need for a bearded dragon. You got into leopard geckos, 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8 to 14,000. What? A couple of questions here. What then started you into Dab Exotics? What was the big turning point for you guys to go from this is fun and we're getting some babies to, oh my gosh, this is a business now. We need to make this into a business.
Well, I guess the reason why we started vending shows is we kind of ran out of friends and family, to hey, you want a gecko, and kind of teaching friends and family and the ones that were interested, getting them set up. And that lasted us probably one full breeding season. We only had a couple pairings, and so that worked out for the first year. And then realistically, it's just a point where, you start getting into the morphs and the genetics and stuff. So you start adding more to your breeding stock. And at that point, it's like, you just need an out, responsibly to sell, the geckos. That way you don't get overran. So we started vending in 2018, and then, started off with one show, and then we might catch 2, within a quarter. And then now it's to the point where we're vending shows, 2-3 shows a month at this point. So whether it's ours or other shows around the region.
You're doing shows, and of course you're doing online as well. Which is your more preferred? Do you like selling online? Do you like selling at shows?
Oh, it's breaking up a little bit. I did not catch that.
Sure. You're doing shows, obviously, and you sell online at like Morph Market. Are you hearing us? They just jumped out. We're going to come back to that. We've got a lot of people joining us here. Grumpy, how's it going? I saw somebody else pop in.
When I saw Grumpy at first, I thought they were saying hi to you.
Hi, Grumpy.
Well,
hi, Grumpy. They know me too well.
After it right away.
I tell you what, folks, I have a ton of questions about the show, but I want to kind of cover this whole Dab Exotics because it's for me at least, it's very, very interesting. Thank you, Frank. Hey, Frank, as a moderator, if you wouldn't mind, can you go out there and grab Dab Exotics Morph Market page? I've got it in my notes, but I don't have the links are hard to get. It's like a shared link, but Dab Exotics. And if you don't mind, can you grab the Scaled Up Expos link as well to the Facebook page or the regular page, if you would, and we'll share those so that we have Dylan and Brittany's links in our chat so everybody can go there.
There they are.
Is it better? Sounding better?
Yes.
Should be, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Cool. Very cool. Which do you enjoy more? Shows, selling animals at shows, or selling animals online? And what are the challenges of either one?
That's a good question. I'd have to say hands down selling animals at shows, just because you get that personal connection with the customer. And, I think through those conversations, you can kind of ensure a little bit better, the situation that your gecko is going home to. Whereas online, it's a lot of you can ask so many questions, but it's so easy just to type a response without actually meaning it. But on the flip side of that, online, what we've typically seen is it's a lot more of the higher end stuff that'll sell online. So it's a lot more breeders and stuff like that. Which works out fine, but it's always fun, when a family comes in looking for their first pet, you kind of get to show them the ropes a little bit and teach them the way it should be done. And it's fun watching them go around from table to table as well, and just kind of take the whole experience in. And I mean, as well as we do, when you get that family that comes in and their eyes are about this big, and they just kind of don't know what to expect. And to be able to kind of ease their worries and maybe some fears and stuff along the way is always enjoyable, whether they buy a gecko from you or not at that point.
Absolutely. You made a great point, though, in conversations at shows, and I'll elaborate a little bit with that because it's so important. Conversations at shows, a customer and a vendor can exchange 20 different questions and answers back and forth, and get to the point where before the sale, before the customer wants to buy something, they might ask, or the vendor might say, "Oh, this is an animal that you can't hold." Oh, I can't hold. Well, that's the main thing that I want. I want an animal that I can hold. Whereas online, you might be missing that in a conversation. You certainly would miss that in a conversation unless, as a seller, you're really, really pounding away at questions to the potential buyer. And most sellers really don't do that. So great point. As a customer, you can come to a show and talk to vendor and find the right animal for you.
Right.
Dab Exotics, tell us more specifics, more detail on Dab Exotics. Tell us how many, just a kind of a rough guess so that we get kind of a reference here. How many enclosures, how many animals, how many, if you want to, and if this is kind of,
for sure,
secret information, don't feel obligated, but kind of some of the details behind Dab Exotics.
What you breed.
Yeah. Well, so for Dab Exotics, we mainly focus on leopard geckos, and we're starting to focus on hognose snakes as well. How many leopard geckos would you guesstimate on how many you have adult breeders?
Adult breeders, probably 50, somewhere around there.
And that's with males and females.
Mm-hmm.
And then babies, we got 2 45 slot racks, and they'll be, pretty much full here soon, and another half incubator full. So maybe like 150 babies this year.
Is this year going to be your top year?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely going to beat last year.
Any challenges as you grow, as your Dab Exotics business grows? What kind of challenges are you running into?
I'd say probably organization.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just everything's organized, and it's one of those deals where we can walk into the reptile room and we can tell you exactly what's what and everything's where. But it'd be nice to kind of get to the point where it's anybody could walk in and tell you kind of what's what and who's who, which there's not necessarily a need for that. It's just instead of having to look through a stack of cards that we have, it's like it'd be nice if there maybe an organized little booklet that you could open up and maybe organized alphabetically or something like that. It's stuff like that that with the growth and producing more babies, it's more systems in place just to stay organized, just to make our life a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm.
Probably that'd be my thing.
Yeah, aside from that, probably space.
Oh,
as we grow,
Everyone.
Yes. Trying to figure out where another rack can go at this point.
Wheels on racks. That's what we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wheels on racks. Pull them in and out.
I'm trying to get to the point where, if you walk into a library and you see bookcase next to a bookcase, and you can't get to the books unless you move this all on rails. you move this bookcase over. Now you can get to both bookcases, and then to get to the next one, you have to move this book. That's where I want to be with my facility.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah, it's something different. It's always tough because we always find ourselves trying to do the math to fit in one more enclosure because we need to sometimes. It kind of gets crazy that way. No? Yes?
We're done.
We pretty much are. Other than, we've got to expand into the bedroom.
It's one of those things where, it's like as growth happens and new, start working with more morphs and stuff, it really... It does suck when you have the opportunity to get into a project or buy something and it's like we just do not have the space. Like there's so much. I always joke with customers at shows and stuff. It's like it's so tough not to go home with everything, and I totally understand it. But you just don't have the space. That's really what it comes down to.
He said that he doesn't take it home because there's no more space. You create space somehow.
I do.
Sometimes you have to.
Sometimes
but he knows the
have
limit.
to.
If it's important enough, space will be made.
Stackable enclosures. Just kind of keep going up. Higher ceilings. That's what I'm going to work on. Higher ceilings. That's something for me to work on. So, I talked to Joe Hupp, which is a rare gecko breeder, and he said something to me a couple of years ago that was so key to what it literally changed the way I looked at things from that point on. Sometimes it's not even space, but it's time. Resources are resources. Resources are space, money, food, all kinds of employees or whatever, but it's also your time. So, if you're looking at adding new animals, make sure that you have the space and everything, but make sure you have the time to work on them as well. And speaking of time, give us a typical Brittany and Dylan day down in the facility, in the gecko facility.
Ooh.
If we're both working on it and both, oh man, that's such a loaded question because so I'm sure it's never just go and clean tubs. You always start cleaning and it's like, oh wow, this one's changed from last week. And you start taking them out, you're looking at them, let me bring them over to the sunlight, and oh man, we need to take some pictures now, and so I mean, if everything was just done. Maybe 4 hours, and that's hustling, but it's like it realistically is 4 hours, maybe twice a week. Like if you did that, you basically double the time just with looking at everything and, taking pictures and sending them off to friends and bragging a little bit and, stuff like that. So, it's always, it ranges, but, a good solid 4 hours just to do the basic cleaning, feeding, watering, stuff like that. That's probably not including pulling eggs and babies, setting babies up and stuff. But, a good off-season day in the reptile room is 4 hours.
Yes. And photography and now TikTok videos, all of this other social media stuff. And I know you guys are answering questions online all the time. So there's just so much time for the animals, for social media, for just everything going on. And then you throw on top of that. And I know you guys both have jobs.
No.
Okay, this is your full time. Okay, with the show, I was going to say, with the shows, I was going to say, how in the world do you have jobs and are able to do all this other stuff? But you've got the geckos, but you have the shows as well. And I want to kind of jump into the shows. And if anybody has any questions, either, Dab Exotics or the Scaled Up Expos, put your questions in and we'll make sure that somewhere in the presentation here, we ask Brittany and Dylan. The two of you are running currently over 12 shows a year, right? Is that from Fond du Lac, Green Bay, Rothschild, and now La Crosse? Is that over 12 a year?
It's 14, right?
It's 14.
Or 13? 13? Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's an unlucky number. You got to make that even.
It's 13.
Yeah, 13 so far.
13 this year, yeah.
So I really have only one question for you guys. I didn't have a lot of time to plan, so this is probably going to be our last question of the show.
There's like 40 questions on that sheet.
But this is the last question.
Uh-oh.
But I have one really super important question. Who's your favorite vendor?
Oh,
man.
that's sassy.
I'm going to answer that for you.
Dab
Seriously.
Exotics. Dab Exotics.
Yeah, Dab
Dab
Exotics.
Good for you.
Outstanding.
Good for
Outstanding.
you.
I'm going to say this because I know you would say it as well. Other than Dab Exotics, obviously, I don't know of any vendors, and this is in all seriousness, folks. I don't know of any vendors that I have gotten to know at the Scaled Up Expos that I walk up to and say, not one of my favorite people or not one of my favorite vendors. Every flippin' single vendor has the same motive that at least I know of, and I'm sure that there's behind the scenes and everything, but every single vendor that I know of has the same exact motive. Number one, educate the public and make the experience at a reptile show fun, educational, entertaining for the customers walking through that door. And I think every single vendor there is thinking long-term, but they're thinking short-term as well. Long-term being the better these shows do, the better I'm going to do, the better, this vendor over here does. It's probably going to rub off and help me in my sales and ability to get exposure and everything too. So to add on to Dab, I think that every single vendor at these Scaled Up Expos are fantastic, and it's just a blast to vend every single show, every single one.
We're all friends. Everybody gets along.
Mhm.
I would agree totally
We
with
talk
that.
all the time about how we have such a great group of vendors at every show.
And to go
Yeah.
further on your point, Wally, one thing I tell a lot of people, a lot of vendors is, if somebody comes in and they have a bad experience with just one of us, they're really liable to never walk into our reptile show again or any other reptile show again. Not to make it sound too dramatic, but I really do believe that. So if we all do our part and we give them the best experience that we can, they might not come back, but chances are they probably will. And it might not be the next show. It might not be within the next 12 months, but eventually if they have time open and they see that the show's back in town, they will come back. There's really no reason not to if we all gave them, a good time and kind of showed them the ropes a little bit.
Yes, and I think the vendors all realize that these customers aren't coming in to buy a gecko or a reptile or a snake or feeders or whatever, and then they're gone forever. This is, I feel it's kind of a family event for the vendors and for the customers coming in, and it's going to be a repeat kind of situation. So, and I think that you guys have promoted that, and every show organizer wants that, and I think that many show organizers have achieved that. I know some haven't. You guys have. You guys have created this family of vendors and created this atmosphere with the customers where they're welcome and not judged, and it's education and it's entertainment and it's fun. So I think a lot of the success you're seeing this year, personally, if I have an opinion here, is because of the environment that you've built to bring customers back over and over and over again. So again, way to go. What's the one factor? So let's go back a few years ago. You're building your hobby. Now it's a business. Now you need outlets to sell your animals. You go to reptile shows. Give me that one turning point. Give me that one factor where either one of you said, let's do reptile shows. Hey, we can do this. Let's just start doing reptile shows. What's that one factor or turning point?
Yeah, it was really, there was no real thought about it being a business. There was no real thought about anything other than the simple fact that we live about 30 minutes north of Green Bay, and Sewerfest was our closest show. And the second closest show is out in Eau Claire. So at that point, it just, to us, only made sense to have a show close to home. And, so that at the start of it, that was really the only reason why we did it. And, and we just went ahead and did it. There was really, I wish I could sit here and say that there's a lot more thought and grand plan that went into it, but it really wasn't. It was just the simple fact that we wanted a reptile show close to home.
Makes sense. So it's more out of selfishness than anything.
Yeah, 100%.
I want a show close to me, so I don't. Yeah, instead of me driving 2 days to your shows, I could just do a show in Sussex, Wisconsin. That
right.
Okay, make a note of that. No. Were there any shows that? So when I got into Supreme Gecko as a business, I was fortunate that there were a couple of people that doing reptile shows, I could model Supreme Gecko off of and say, I really, really, really like what they're doing with how they display their animals, how they present themselves, how they answer questions, how they relate to the public. Were there any shows that you looked at and said, this is kind of what we want to do right here? Now, we want to kind of start with that, but we want to do this, 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 and this too. But were there any shows that you kind of modeled the Scaled Up Expos off of, if that makes sense?
Yeah, 100%. At the beginning, I'd say 100% for sure. It was the shows that we vended as vendors. You know what I'm saying? So it was really the Wings, Tails, and Scales out in Eau Claire. That was the first show we ever vended. And Sewer Fest, obviously the Wire Show, Jim. And then, obviously even just walking through Tinley Park, it's a totally different thing, but you can still kind of draw from it as far as, kind of the way it should be done. And it really, for our first couple of shows, it was just putting all that together, plus, what we thought personally should be at a reptile show or how it should be ran. So yeah, most definitely. I remember like the way we used to do our Facebook posts and everything, just kind of like, you look at these other shows and you see what information they're putting out and what's kind of needed. And that's precisely what we did, to start. And then it kind of morphed into what we do, nowadays.
Were there, I'm going to step back. How long did it take you guys to go, we should do shows because, we don't have anything in this area and there's a golden opportunity? How long between that moment of conception to the first show that you did in Green Bay? Northern Wisconsin Reptile Expo, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So when did we start? I know it was over a year.
Yeah. So it was probably like summer of 2018.
Yeah. It was pretty soon. So it took just over a year, I'll say, and that's just because we really wanted to cross our T's and dot our I's and make sure everything with the local municipality was good. And it just so happened, which I almost prefer to go this way. So there was no reptile laws on the books. So basically we had to kind of set our own definitions of what would be allowed. And I don't know if you have any experience working with any form of government, but there's a lot of back and forth and nothing's quick. So it took a while for our first one, and we've definitely got it more streamlined nowadays to where we know what questions to ask, we know who to contact. So it's for our first show, it took probably twice as long as it needed to. But we learned a lot along that way and through that process that's helped us, this many years later, looking at new locations, it's pretty cut and dry and easy what we need and such. So
what were some of the big hurdles that you guys were confronted with that you had to get past? You mentioned laws, obviously. That's a huge one. Oops, we lost them again. We're going to find out. Yeah, that's all right. We're going to find out. Juan is saying that if it wasn't because I learned to make extra cash at every chance I could, I wouldn't have reptiles right now. And that hobby to business video that we recently put out about 2 weeks ago was exactly that. Start with small things, make some money, and you can turn it into a big time business.
Are you guys having storms out by you at all, Brittany?
So I think it's supposed to storm, but we live in the middle of nowhere, basically. So generally our Wi-Fi that we have is fine. But there are times where it just...
Bear with us.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm fine. I was just wondering.
Very sorry.
No, it's okay. I just got a text message from one of my kids saying there's a tornado warning out in Walworth County.
Oh.
And I wasn't sure if you guys were starting to see storms coming in or not. That was all.
No, we just live basically in like a 4 square mile radius that does not have good internet. Yeah, it's nice.
You're fine.
What I've heard is that you can wear aluminum hats with little things.
Yeah.
Next time.
Next time, I'm just an idea.
Mental
I'm an
note.
idea man.
You're an
Chuck.
idea man.
We appreciate it.
My pleasure. I'm
No, you
glad to
don't.
help. Hurdles. So we talked about laws. You guys talked about laws. What are a couple of other big hurdles that you guys were confronted with that, was like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Or, oh my gosh, this is a biggie. This is going to take us some time. Or we are going to take time doing this to make sure that it's right. Stuff like that.
I know venues are always a tough one sometimes. But aside from
For our first so now everything really is easier once now at the point that we're at, where we kind of have proof of concept. We've gone so long without any issues, and we have references that people can call, and they can they can see that we do have a good track record. To start with, finding a venue that when you say reptiles they say yes was very rare, very, very rare. It's one of those things where people hear reptiles, and even if they are all right with snakes, in a professional setting at their business, they're like, no way. So to start with, there was a lot of no's, a lot of, oh yeah, we'll call you back, and you just never get nothing back. And then we found the spot that we were in, and it was really nice. It was just small. But that was enough to get it to where we had one show, under our belt, and kind of a proof of concept. There's no snakes running loose afterwards, in the venue or anything like that, or at least that's what we told them, but it was really one of the biggest hurdles. I mean, even still to this day is venues, like Brittany said. We can't have a show without them, and so sometimes it's it just makes it a little difficult, and there's not a venue on every other corner as well. In a lot of cities, there's only so many options, and if a handful of them say no, and another handful kind of know that they're your only option, it can be a little tough at some times, but nothing that we can't get by.
Gosh, that's a great point, because I didn't even think about that. Not only are you limited to, in an area, the number of facilities that can host you guys a reptile show, you have to have the right electrical service. You have to have tables, just so many other different good parking, just so many other good food,
ATMs,
ATMs,
yeah,
Wi-Fi service, just things that you just probably have a checklist now to go through.
Yo, for sure. Yep. In every show and every venue, they always throw you a curveball, one way or another. It's not necessarily their fault, but it's always just something that you didn't expect that now you add to the list for the next time, just to make sure is done. I don't know if you remember our venue in Green Bay that had the sand floors that were covered. So that place, that was our second and third expo ever. And that place had a problem with blowing breakers. And that was something the day of, you're not going to find out to the day of the show. And when it happens, obviously people are getting set up and there's a line starting to form, so there's a little bit of pressure from the vendors, like, you better get this fixed. And it's like, oh yeah, we're trying. And they ended up getting it figured out. But, that's just one of the, you talk about hurdles, just one of the little hurdles that, for us at this point, we kind of just take it as they come and don't really think twice about it, because there's always something. But for anybody that does shows, they definitely know that anytime you're dealing with that many people in one spot, there's always a curveball that comes your way. There always is, and it's kind of an art to kind of navigate that the best way you can.
I will say, you guys never show us that panic when it happens.
Ever.
We have not.
Try not to.
That. No, we have not seen that from you guys at all. If there's something going on,
something comes up, at our table when I'm setting up, I'm yelling at Nanette like crazy. I'm swearing. I'm looking for somebody to kick. So you guys you're very calm, and that's reassuring for the vendors, obviously. And obviously, I'm kidding about kicking. I would never kick you in public.
once.
more than once. So you talked about a couple of challenges that have jumped up to bite you. I want to talk about successes, but before I talk about successes, I kind of have to lead our viewers here to what really is this huge success. We talked about the 13 shows. We talked about the 1 to 3 Green Bay to now 13. But let's talk about number of vendors. Let's talk about tables. What were the first couple of shows? Number of tables, number of vendors, however you want to measure, whatever you guys are measuring.
Yeah.
Attendance, if you want to get into that. If you don't, that's fine too. But tell us from the beginning to tell us now, so everybody has a sense for how huge this has become.
And when did it, like how long it took? Like how many years total that you've been doing them?
Yes.
Do you remember how many tables we had at our
We
first
had
show?
28 tables at our first show in Green Bay.
Wow.
And
Yes.
that was
We were one
November
of
of
them.
2019.
Yes, and you were one of them.
And then our second show was March of 2020. It was the weekend before everything shut down for COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And that was with the sand floors. And we had just under 50 tables, like 48, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
And
tables
then-
or vendors?
Tables.
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 Yes.
Okay.
And that's
And
a big
then,
jump.
Yes.
Yeah, from
Mhm.
first show to second show with about 5 months in between. That's what we did. And then after that, we had a show in August of 2020, and that was with everything still pretty. It was just coming out of COVID. Stuff up here was opening up, and I don't remember the amount of tables we had, but it was less than March, obviously, and it was very little amount of tables, very little walkthrough, but everybody who was there was just kind of happy to, just to be around reptiles and
Yes.
have a show again, which is kind of neat. And then coming out of there, we looked at getting a new venue for Green Bay, but they wouldn't let us do it for roughly, August of 2021.
Yeah.
Because of COVID. So then our next show from there was in Rothschild in May of 2021, and
Really?
that was roughly 50 tables as well. And then starting in the end of 2021, that's when we had Green Bay back in August, and then we added Fond du Lac in October for the end of 2021, and all those shows were, Rothschild is a little bit smaller, but those were in the 60 to 80 table.
Yeah,
range.
something like that.
Maybe a little bit smaller.
So we
So in
had
just
4
like-
shows in 2021 total.
So
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
taking out of the
and then
equation
2020.
COVID.
Oh,
No, go ahead.
I
I'm
lost
sorry.
it again.
just give us.
So I was going to ask, going from some of their first shows of 28 tables and such a short time period, taking away COVID, obviously, to 50 to 60 shows in their 4th, 5th show. Tables. I'm sorry, tables. In such a short period of time, from 28 to about 40 to 50 in just a few shows. That's
Mhm.
phenomenal. But
Yeah,
carry
it was
on.
pretty crazy, that growth in that spurt. And then, so towards the end of 2021, we released our whole show schedule.
And that's when we made the switch to Scaled Up Expos.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's when we released our whole schedule and made the switch. And then from there, we maintained around the 100 table mark until last fall. And really the biggest growth we've seen has been this year. We went in January, we were at 100 tables in Fond du Lac. And then April, we were at 130. And this last show, we were at 150.
Wow.
So that was, that's the biggest growth we've seen by far since we started.
I am going to say in the summer months,
What is-
typically everything kind of okay. I'm going to tell everybody, and I just saw that message from Alexander. We're going to focus on the Scaled Up Expos, but you can message me and I can answer any specific reptile questions that you might have. So to go from 28 to What was the last number?
150.
150, folks. 28 to 100, five times as many tables in that short amount of time is crazy. Can you imagine taking your business, or let's take your paycheck from work, and in 2 or 3 years multiplying it by 5? That's growth. That's a lot of planning. That's a lot of scheduling. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of growth.
Hi, Flawless.
Hey, Flawless. Is that Will or Audra? So I was just saying, from 30 to 155 times in a very, very short period of time. It's just unfathomable that you guys have gone that far, come that far. It's just crazy. What do you think? What do you think, other than hard work, what do you think is the number one key to your success?
I would say word of mouth from the vendors was a huge help. Vendors are already vending their usual shows and everything, so it did take some time for us to gain the trust of vendors to spend the time and drive, because we were a little bit further of a drive than their usual shows that they were vending. So I think that was very helpful and made a huge difference.
That's a concern, that amount of travel time for a vendor?
Well, like you, sometimes they have to cross the ocean and
a couple times zones,
multiple planes, and
get a passport.
Everything else.
Yeah.
I know.
I would have done more
it's a
shows, but I had to
hassle.
get my passport. Yeah, so sorry about that.
You were such a whiner.
I am a whiner.
we have a friend that breeds leopard geckos down just south of Chicago. He always calls it the frigid north. He's taking a trip up to the frigid north.
The reptile shows from the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field. Tell us about your typical week. I know there's a lot of work. So you've got the geckos going, you've got the facility going, spending a lot of time there. But tell me, okay, let's say Sunday is a show, and we're going to talk more about lacrosse in just a second. Saturday. Sorry, everybody. I'm reverse and delete that last 10 seconds. So Saturday is a reptile show, and thank you very much for coming on 2 days before a flipping reptile show to do this. Tell us how busy a week is before a reptile show for you guys.
Yeah, it's busy. It's busy. It's not hard. It's not. I always tell everybody it's not hard work. It's just time-consuming work. There's a lot of vendor questions. So vendors reaching out, whether it's text, email, message, just getting all the vendors squared away with their questions about load in and what time is load in start and all that. And then it's also a lot of questions from walkthrough. Because we work really hard to get a lot of new people that have never been to our shows or to a reptile show, period. So it's a lot of can I bring my pet bearded dragon in, or just how much is it to get in, or what time does the show start, and just basically all the questions. But it really builds up the week of the show, and even more so like the 2 or 3 days before the show is when a lot of the messages start coming along. The attendees just asking the usual questions, and then it's emails back and forth at the venues, just making sure everything's squared away on that part. And then I don't know, am I missing anything else?
I don't think so.
Depending,
just
like,
getting everything packed and
getting Dab Exotics packed up and ready to go, making sure scaled up stuff, which is pretty. Now we got totes for everything, so that's pretty easy to get packed up and ready to go. But the workload does somewhat depend on the venue as well. So like our Fond du Lac location is the county expo center, and with it being the county expo center, basically they give you the keys and they say here's the building, right? So we have to coordinate the ATMs, we coordinate the food truck, coordinate the tables. So that's just for every vendor that you're going through for each individual thing. That just adds to the emails and phone calls and stuff. And like I said, it's not hard, and by any means not complaining, but it's just the motions that you got to go through. just to make sure everybody's happy on show day.
And most people, you can keep most, but obviously not me, but most people you can keep happy on show day. Have you hit any last minute kind of gotchas? Like, you can plan as much as you want, but I tell you what, for all the shows that we've done over the years, it seems like always, well, until recently, until Nanette started helping, it seemed like every single show was, oh my God, I forgot the animals. Well, I don't know if I forgot lighting one time. I forgot lighting at Sewerfest, which in the past was very, very dark. And I'll tell the story really quick. We got there unpacking, and I started looking for the lights. And animals are out, display cases, looking for the lights. This was Christopher, so this is 10 years ago.
You can't blame me.
I'll blame it on Christopher because he's not there. If he's listening, sorry, Christopher, I'm still going to blame you. But looking, through the boxes, no lights. I looked at Christopher and said, our show's done. Literally. And I think that show we probably did a quarter of what we normally do. So anyways, it's important to have your ducks in a row and make sure that you have everything kind of falling in line. Has there ever been anything like, oh my gosh, we didn't do, or the venue didn't do this, or something happened where I don't know if this is going to be a biggie? I want some dirt here. I want you to spill the beans on.
Yeah. What do you think the biggest thing we've ever forgotten would be? That's she's so just as crazy as you are with spreadsheets. She's lists. She's got a list for everything.
Yeah, I can't say I've forgotten anything huge.
No. Nothing that ruined a show for sure. Nothing that that is sticking out to me. I mean, as far as Dab Exotics, that's a different story because Dab Exotics, we've forgotten lights before. We've forgotten our card reader.
Mealworms, we've forgotten.
Last week. Oh no, last week. It was the show before that.
Yeah.
That we forgot our bucket of mealworms, our pail of mealworms that we bring. But that's all. That stuff's pretty minor as far as the stuff that we could bring or could forget. You know what I'm saying? Man, I'm trying to think of something good for you, something really good that we forgot. I don't know.
I can't think of anything.
Think of that, but I'm going to ask I have a question that I don't have on my spreadsheet here. Have you ever had, this is kind of nutty, but have you ever had a vendor kind of walk into the show, day of show, and say, hey, I'd like to vend at your show? Does that happen?
That is one of her biggest fears.
That is a fear of mine. If someone just walks in, we do tend to we'll have cancellations the day before or something like that, and we could potentially pop them onto a table. No big deal. My biggest fear though is forgetting someone and not adding them to the list, even though they told me that they wanted to vend. That is absolutely terrifying to me. Is having someone show up with all of their stuff. We never planned on having them there. And
And that's never happened.
No, never happened.
We do. I'll just kind of throw in a personal side on that. We do the 12 Supreme Days of Christmas. It looks like Brittany and Dylan bounced out again. I'll just mention for the 12 Supreme Days of Christmas, I know how Brittany is probably stressing out about making sure every single vendor is accounted for these shows. From a personal standpoint, I'll say for the 12 Supreme Days of Christmas, my biggest fear is somebody saying, hey, I'd like to donate a crested gecko and it's $1,000, whatever, and then forgetting them somewhere in the event. And fortunately, that's not happened, but I can't, I know what you're saying, 100%. Mm-hmm. Oops, well, now what do I do? But knowing that, I know you guys would
you think it work?
Weave and get that working within a minute. So
yeah, I mean we've already talked about it. So Green Bay is our one show that's consistently sold out at this point, and if push came to shove, it would we'd figure it out. And I mean, even if we had to, we'd give up our own table,
mm-hmm.
For a vendor. That's already agreed upon. We'll just do it. Now if somebody showed up and they were expecting 6 tables, we might have to try to figure something else out. But we most definitely would do everything in our power to make it work, and that really starts with double, triple, quadruple checking everything, which she's very, very good at as far as that stuff goes. Just because that would be pretty rough if a vendor showed up expecting a table and had reached out and confirmed it, and then we didn't have it for them. Like that can't happen.
Well, and you've got good vendors in there too that you could probably come to any of us and say, "Hey, I've got this problem. Can you help me out?" Yeah.
Right.
I'm sure some of us could scrunch a little bit more if we needed to.
I'm not
Come to me, Brittany. Come to me, Brittany. I'll take care of it.
I will.
Walter.
The nuts got me.
I wear the pants in this organization. Well,
No, you don't.
Crystal
does.
Crystal does.
Yeah, Crystal's the boss.
And when
we'll have to go
Crystal's
to
not
Crystal.
around, then you go through me.
Okay.
Brittany knows how this works.
We talked, yes, exactly. We talked a little bit about the differences between the different shows, and again, I'll mention Fond du Lac. I'm going to miss one for sure. Fond du Lac, Rothschild, Green Bay, La Crosse. What are some of the quirky things about the shows? You mentioned, obviously, Fond du Lac is different in that here's the keys, go set it up. How about any other differences between these different shows? Between the customer, the clientele walking through, anything different, anything kind of quirky?
They are all different.
Yes.
Yeah, and I love that actually. Like every show that we have has a different feel, just in every way. Honestly, there's a lot of walkthrough that comes through to all of the shows, but there's many more people that just go to their one local show, and it's just a vibe thing. Like the whole vibe of the crowd and everything is just different. Now as far as the venues go, I always laugh and joke, especially with the venue people, there's no perfect venue. There's just not. So either the room is nice and there's no parking, there's an amazing parking lot, but the room's tucked way back in, or the room is not square. There's a bunch of weird angles for it. Whatever it is, there's always something that's different. That just I wish I could take Fond du Lac's parking lot and Rothschild's room layout and Green Bay's location, or whatever it is. But is there anything as far as you say that'd be kind of quirky?
I know one of our favorite things to talk about is Rothschild and the community. They're local pet stores and Ace Hardware. So we are getting so many people that are just super excited about learning about all the different types of reptiles. The Ace Hardware does a really wonderful job of displaying the animals and educating people and having a wide selection of supplies. But we are getting people from the community that didn't know anything about reptiles, are super interested in learning, and they just bring their kids and they go home and they do their research. And then they'll come back a couple shows from then and they will purchase an animal after doing the research and having the knowledge that the vendors provide them.
Yeah.
So the community out there is
Rothschild's been
honestly,
it's been the most rewarding show. I can say that pretty confidently for us. It's been the most rewarding just for the simple fact, if for the people that don't know, the city of Rothschild's 5,000 people, and then you got Wausau just to the north, which is 30,000 people, and you got Stevens Point about a half hour south, which is roughly 30,000 people as well. And like Brittany said, their local pet shop is inside of Ace Hardware, and so it's when we first started going out there, it was smaller crowds, a lot of educating, a lot of looky-loos, as people would say. And the craziest part with that is they went home and they told their friends and their family, and they marked their calendar when we were coming back. And when we did come back, they came back with, a group twice the size, and some people are buying, and there was more people looking. And, fast forward all the way to not the last show there in June, but the February show was our second highest walkthrough to date out of any show.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, that absolutely just blew us away.
That show was huge. The first one they had.
Oops.
I remember how busy it was.
Well, and
we went.
Yeah, we did Rothschild,
the
the first one, and you don't know what to expect. You really don't. And I always tell them that when we're doing a show like that, just don't expect to do any sales. We're here to promote and to educate. And sure enough, Rothschild just blew the doors.
The first
Just
one.
blew the doors off of everyone's expectations. Very first show. Very first show.
Maybe-
So when you said that the crowds weren't as high, maybe they weren't as high as now they are now, in perspective, but I don't think there was any vendor after Rothschild #1 that walked out and said, that was all right, Sean. I think everybody walked out saying, wow, the crowds and the questions and talking to people. And I think everybody did well, from a show standpoint, from a business standpoint, but more than anything, I think everybody was impressed with the customers walking through the door and how much they wanted to absorb from the vendors. So
maybe you should go back to that show. Take the 2-day trek.
So seriously, folks, when we talk, it's a running joke with Brittany and Dylan and Nanette and I about how far these shows are. Rothschild is like 2.5 hours, so it's not bad. But I kid Brittany all the time that I have to pack. We have to stop for lunch and dinner on the way there, and now it's become I had to pick up a passport, and it's 14 states away, and it's just a fun running joke. So I have no idea what this means. Wes comes on and he goes XXL I think that's code for, I don't know.
And then it says we.
Wes, here's your answer. I have no idea what the heck that means. But thanks for joining, Wes.
First, I thought it was hugs and kisses when I first saw it. No, we didn't go there.
Okay, if XX is, what is XX? Is that hugs or kisses?
He said
kisses? What is
he's
CD
got one
and
of the
CSS?
kids. One of the kids is playing on his right, but he's like, oops.
CSS has to be kiss.
He said, oops, it was a mistake.
Okay, I won't go with that one. Love you, Wes. Thanks for joining. So, I think the expectations were, and I don't want to say low in a bad way. It was just everybody had their expectations set to, if it's not big, then it's not big. It is what it is. And it just was crazy. I thought it was crazy. And now it sounds like it's just, snowballing forward. So that's pretty cool. Speaking of the Northwest and some of these shows. I had another question. Now I'm trying to find out where I'm at with this list. What are some of the questions you get from customers? What are some of the questions that you get from people that want to attend the shows? So, I'm in my mind as a vendor from the other side of the table, I'm thinking you probably get a ton of questions from the vendors and how do I do and should I do and what should I do in case, but you too are probably getting a ton of questions from customers just asking you basic questions before the show and after the show. So what are some of the questions that you get before the show about the upcoming show that both from a this is a very common question that's easily answered to, I'm not even sure how I would answer that question. If you can think of any just kind of weirdo questions that you've received over the past few years.
I'm sure they've got a couple from you.
Probably.
Can you buy animals at the expo?
That is a big one.
That's been a big one.
Standing.
That's
Winner. We can literally end the show right there. Seriously. That's my favorite. Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you buy animals?
We've had people ask if there's going to be reptiles at the show.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good one.
Yep.
One of the most popular questions is always, is there going to be insert species at the show?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's more common stuff like leopard geckos, crested geckos, axolotls is a big one.
Yeah.
All the way to people looking for like crocodile monitors and caiman lizards and stuff like that, which is kind of neat to that people are looking for stuff like that too. But that's probably the most popular question, right behind maybe like when or where is it, stuff like that.
Can we bring our own animal? Like,
Yeah.
Can they carry in an animal and walk around with it?
That's
That's another one.
What is your answer on that one?
We don't allow carrying animals.
I didn't think so.
No.
Yeah. So what we tell people, and it's the truth, it's to help promote better safety and security just for everybody involved. When leopard gecko, somebody carries a leopard gecko, it's probably not going to be a big deal. But there's just it's a biosecurity thing. Whether an animal bites another person, vendors tend to do a very good job at. If you got a leopard gecko or a crested gecko that's going to gnaw the crap out of somebody, you're probably not going to let a kid handle it. You know what I'm saying?
Sure we are.
Whereas, the yeah, right. But, the general public, it's just one of those things where most people are pretty good, but it's just not something that we can leave to chance. And then you have the other thing where every so often there's somebody that comes in and they're going to try to bring in a handful of animals to sell. And it's like, we vet our vendors. We have an application process. We make sure everything's on the up and up. And if something does happen, we know who it is and we can take care of it accordingly. To whereas if somebody just walks in with a pocket full of, we've literally seen this, a pocket full of frogs. Well, frogs out of all things. And if they, they think that they're just going to sit there and sell them. It's not about the money. It's just, it's, somebody's going to have a bad experience buying that frog, and it's going to come back onto us, and it wasn't even one of our vendors. You know what I'm saying? So it's just one of those things where, we just can't allow that. And, at least us. I know some shows do, but, for us, it's just there's not very many, positive routes that can end in.
We appreciate that too.
We
Definitely.
Absolutely. As vendors, we absolutely positively appreciate that. And it's not from a oh my gosh, that's going to affect my sales. It has nothing at all to do with that whatsoever.
Safety.
I'm just from a safety standpoint, from a show standpoint, like you were mentioning, liabilities and everything. I guess from a selfish standpoint, I don't know where those animals have been. I know, like you just said, I'm repeating, I apologize, but you vet all the vendors, the quality of the animals coming in. You don't know the quality of the frogs in somebody's flipping pocket. So I see that comment, and to elaborate a little bit, so this lady had a big coat on, and she had dart frogs cupped up, in the little cups. Yes, and she came in. That was at her first show ever. Yeah. And the only reason why we figured it out is because she came to me as a vendor trying to sell me the frogs. I'm like, and, she didn't know who I was. I was at her table, and she whips out she had probably at least 8 frogs, and she's like, "Are you interested in these?" And it's like, I was shocked with it being our first show ever. I was definitely not expecting that. But it's not like she just had a handful of frogs in her pocket. They were at least cupped. But at the end of the day, it's still frogs in the lady's pocket. Right. And it's like, maybe she did have good intentions or whatever, but it's just something. If somebody bought those frogs, it's probably not going to end up well. Traveling for animals and stuff, if it's not done right, it just never ends well. And as we all know, traveling in a pocket, at a reptile show is probably not the preferred method. So.
Or we had the one iguana in a jacket.
Oh yeah. Somebody tried smuggling it out.
An iguana, a full grown iguana in their jacket.
Yeah. As if
is that an iguana in your jacket, or? What are people doing? So I've got to ask. I've got to go back. The iguana is just crazy, but I've got to go back. So the lady walks up to your table, does the psst, psst.
Yes.
Want to buy some frogs? I'm thinking of Tim Conway on Carol Burnett. Want to buy some frogs? And what do you tell this person?
First of all, it was no, thank you, and you're not supposed to have those in here. That was basically. It was very. I was shocked. So there was not much, sugar on top. It was more or less like, kind of, what the hell are you doing? What? Basically that was very short lived. Let's put it that way.
Did the person try to argue with you? Like, why? There's no rule. I can bring frogs in if I want to.
No, and I think that's pretty much, they know, they just tried selling the frogs to the wrong guy, I guess. They kind of knew.
Yeah, I'm the show chairman here, so not going to fly.
You just met security, buddy.
Yeah, you just met security, so.
Yeah.
Blue team, we have an issue on aisle number 1, blue team. I can't fathom somebody trying to pull something like that off. Steve-O is asking, if I can move my camera strap here. Steve-O is asking, is there a question you with more, oops, I lost my computer here. There's a question with more customers ask or don't ask enough. So I think he has 2 questions here. Is there a question that And I think that you kind of covered that first one with the customers asking directions or times or are there really reptiles going to be sold at this reptile show? But are there questions? I've got this literally as my next question. So great segue, great timing. Are there questions the customer should be asking more walking into or preparing more walking into a show and seeing table after table of reptiles?
I guess it probably depends on the customer. If somebody's new to the whole thing and they've never been to a reptile show before, I mean, asking all the questions that they do already. Is there going to be animals for sale there? Can we hold animals? Where's it going to be? I mean, those are definitely the questions that should be getting asked.
Yeah.
One thing, the biggest thing that sticks out in my mind, just with recently. What happened with you is after the fact. We have people every show that reach out and they ask for vendor contact, right? And I wish more people would. We are.
Yes.
We know
Yes.
every vendor. If somebody comes in and they say they want the guy that had Crosse geckos who was right up front at the last show. Well, it's either this guy, that guy, or that guy. What do they look like?
Yep.
I'll literally ask them. So that is one, it just sticks out in my mind probably because of recent events, but it really is one of the biggest questions. Like if you have a question or a concern about your animal and you forgot to grab a business card, because we all know how it is when you get, excited, you're excited to bring a new animal home. The last thing you're thinking of grabbing is a business card. So once you get home and you have a question, if you can't figure out who the vendor was, definitely always message the show promoter, whether it's a Facebook page, email, whatever, and they should be able to help you out and kind of get you, whether it's an easy question where you can just answer it or get you in contact with whoever the vendor was. That way the customer can maintain that open line of contact, with the person that they bought the animal from.
Yes. I can't stress that enough. It's hard being a vendor, and I'm going to try to bring the emotions out of this because vendors all love their animals and they've cared for their animals for a long, long time, and they want the animals to go to good homes. They want the people to have success. Obviously, there's nothing harder than to see, hey, I've looked all over Facebook and I can't get this answer without them coming back to the breeder, to the vendor. I want you, Nanette, right now to word for word. What's the last sentence that I try to tell every single customer that buys an animal?
To email you or message you on Facebook because you are always available. We always tell them that. Always tell them that. And we give them, well, now it's new, but I tape a thank you card to the top of all of their purchases now with our information. And our labeling has Supreme Gecko right on my labels. So that people know it. And if they do forget it or they lose the card, or you have the fact that sometimes there are not business cards on a table because the 50,000 kids that came through are doing their collection pile.
Yeah.
Wads of them and you've run out. So at least there's information, but I would highly recommend your name on the cup somewhere so that when they take it home or the container, they can go, oh, wait, if I don't have it, it's here. But we both always do. If you have questions, let Wally know. He is more than willing to work with you.
And honestly,
and
to me,
are like that.
Yeah,
100%. To me, it's really one of the biggest benefits of buying directly from a breeder is that you have the person that produced the animal basically at your fingertips. I can't name a breeder off the top of my head that I know personally that won't answer, a question about an animal that they produced.
Right.
So, I mean, that really is one of the biggest benefits that I tell customers all the time is, there's nothing wrong physically, generally speaking, with an animal from a pet store or somebody who wholesales or whatever. But on the backside, after purchase, the breeders are going to be the ones who are there that'll be able to, tell you who grandma, grandpa, great grandparents to the animal was, show you pictures of the whole lineage, if you really wanted it. Whereas, there are some great pet stores out there, but you're just not, they can't tell you where the gecko came from, or how they were taking care of it, So whereas we have them from the time they hatch out of an egg, I can tell you everything that gecko's eaten from the time it hatched to the time it's being sold.
Yes.
So, we could tell you if with the snakes, well, this snake tends to take it off the tongs, where this snake, you just lay it in there, it'll be gone within 20 minutes. You don't get that from a pet store typically.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Pet stores, the internet.
yeah.
The internet. The great thing about the internet is that you can go on the internet and find anything that you absolutely want to find on the internet. The bad thing about the internet is that you can go on the internet and find just about anything you want to find on the internet. Meaning,
Yeah.
should I keep my leopard gecko over sand? You'll find the bazillion sites that say, yeah, no problem there. And then you go on again looking, and you'll find a bazillion sites that say, that's the worst thing in the world, and your leopard gecko will die. The best thing to do, and I'm preaching to the choir here, but I'm re-emphasizing what Dylan and Brittany are saying, is go back to the breeder. And not only that, the great thing that you just said about these shows is talk to 3 breeders about the same animal and ask them, what do you think about keeping leopard geckos over sand? Go to Gary from Order Exotic. Go to Dylan. Go to another Heidi about leopard geckos and say, what do you think about keeping leopard geckos over sand? If you're a beginner, you're intermediate or advanced, get those 3 answers, weigh them in your mind, go back to Google Scholar, look at what they're doing in nature, make your own judgment off of that, but get some expert opinions. And that's what these shows are all about. And if you find a vendor, I've said this over and over and over again, if you find a vendor that says, well, really, do you want to buy an animal? Because I can talk to you about the animal if you want to buy it. Walk away immediately.
Yeah.
I've never, ever seen any vendors like that in any of the shows that I've done, but every vendor should be willing to. Now, the vendor might say educate, and the vendor might say, give me just 1 second. I'm talking to this lady or gentleman. I'll be right with you. But you need to get that answer from that vendor to help you make the best choice that you possibly can. I'm emotional about that because that's what these shows are all about, getting as much information as you can about your animals.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I tell customers that all the time, and kind of the way I say it is, you can ask 100 leopard gecko breeders how they keep their geckos. You can get 100 different answers. So biggest thing I tell people is kind of compile all those answers together and draw where they're the same and where they're different, kind of figure out what works best for your lifestyle and for your individual gecko. And the biggest thing with that one is like with feeding, you ask one person and they hand feed, precisely 15 mealworms every day. And you talk to another person, they just toss a pile in once a week. And you look at the geckos and they're both extremely healthy. And that's 2 very, very different ways of doing it, but both can work, so that's just one little example of when you reach back out to the breeder themselves to produce the animal, you can kind of mimic what the breeder is doing and help make that transition into the gecko's new home just that much easier.
Perfect. Absolutely. Couldn't agree anymore. I want to become a vendor at your show. What are 2 tips that you would give me as a new vendor to help me make more connections, to be more successful, to sell more animals, either at the next show that I do or in the future? A couple of tips. And I'd like to hear both of you give me a couple of tips.
So I'll go first. So if you're a brand new vendor, I recommend going to a reptile show and walking around first. I really recommend even taking notes. What do you like about a vendor setup? What don't you like about vendor setup? Try to have a banner, some kind of business card, that sort of thing. Get your animal process or like what you bring them in down so that like the size of the container is correct, that sort of thing. Just, I don't want to see it thrown together.
Yes.
At the last minute, like coming and making sure that your setup is presentable is very important.
Yeah, even on that point, I've seen people like set up their setup at home, like get an 8-foot table and just kind of do a mock setup. That's a big one. One thing I would say is, on the vendor to vendor relationships, be humble. Be humble is a big one. Don't walk in and kind of act like you're the top dog, because it's not like that. but that can rub people the wrong way. Is, you know, this is your first show and you're going to start telling people how to do it. You know, like just be humble, ask questions, be friendly. You know, kind of networking as far as a newer vendor. Networking is the biggest thing that you can do, and not just with customers, but in my opinion, it's even more important with the other breeders, and not just. I'm not talking, you know, if you have ball pythons, go talk to the ball python people. They're not your, you know, they're not your competition. I guess, you know, maybe financially they are, but in the grand scheme of things, they're also potentially some of your biggest customers. And, you know, I know as far as the leopard gecko people go, you know, if I don't have something, I'm pointing somebody over to Gary or Leo or Heidi. And, you know, because we all care about each other. We're all friends. We all like each other. So you should walk into a reptile show looking for those types of relationships rather than sit at your table and everybody else is my enemy because they're selling the same thing I'm selling and I got to outsell them. It's just not the way to do it. You know, that's just not the way to do it. You know, walk in, be friendly, start meeting people, shake some hands, you know, ask questions, introduce yourself is a big one. And, you know, and, you know, the first show, and then you do the second show, and then, you know, a year goes by before you know it. And now you're just another one of the vendors doing what you're doing, fitting right in with everybody and, you know, getting along with everybody.
I love both of those answers. And if Bugs and Beings is still here, did you say Beans? If Bugs and Beings is here still, my favorite part of the show is always when they come in, and if they have time and I have time, he'll walk over and give me a hug. And I'm yes. And so he's afraid of you. Everybody at the show is afraid of you. So it must not be afraid of me. So that's such a cool thing. And you're right. You know, if I don't have it, I'm going to send it somebody over to somebody else. That's just the way it is, because I know, you know, they're doing the same thing, and I know maybe next show they might not have something. They'll send somebody over to me. Happens all the time.
Another quick point.
Yeah.
When vendors, how do I say this the right way? When a customer comes up to you as a vendor and they say, well, you told me to take care of the animal this way. I just talked to so-and-so over there. They said it was different. Don't think that they were wrong saying it. Just emphasize we all do things differently, like your point with how you feed. You know, everybody does their own thing, and maybe they do it that way and it's successful for them, and accept the fact that somebody might counter what you're saying. And we've had it happen where people come up and they're like, well, so-and-so just told me to do it this way. Well, it's not the way we do it, but they might, and it's okay. We all have healthy animals, and just encourage each other that way. And don't, you know, oh, that vendor doesn't know what he's doing because he said that kind of thing.
Yeah. Another thing I just, you know, came to mind too. And I think it's kind of a big thing in life, period, not to get too, you know, sentimental, but just communication. Like, so like you said with that, like if a customer comes up and says, well, no, this other breeder says to do it this way. Well, you know, if that makes you a little upset or you know, you kind of have a certain feeling about it, just go talk to the other vendor, you know, go have the conversation. And you come to find out, so when you put that many people into one room, not everybody's going to get along. But if we can at least just have a conversation and come to understanding and, you know, realize that most people aren't out to get you. You know, so if we can just pass that basic, you know, respect forward and have conversations and kind of get to the bottom of something that could be so simple like that, but instead you're going to sit there and stew on it, and before you know it, it's going to be this big thing. You know, so especially if you're a new vendor coming in and you know, something kind of rubs you the wrong way or something, just, you know, I mean, if you don't want to go talk to the vendor directly, if it's that big of an issue, come talk to one of us, you know, and we can kind of fill you in and tell you like, well, you know, it's kind of normal in the way stuff's done, and it's not a big deal. Or if it is an issue and something that we should know about, we can take care of it at that point. But you know, communication goes so far, you know, when you're dealing with other people.
And I know vendors are doing that, because I know, Dylan, you walk over like every show and say, you know, Wally, another vendor just kind of talked to me about this whole hugging thing. You've got to stop the hugging thing. So, great outlet. Yeah,
another thing too, for newer vendors, don't be afraid to ask the vendors that are there that have done it for a while for advice. And if you forgot to bring something, don't be afraid to come over and say, hey, can I borrow an electric outlet strip? I didn't even think about bringing. Just feel comfortable.
We were just asking people for tape at Fond du Lac.
Yeah.
We went from booth to booth asking for tape.
Yeah, just ask and don't be afraid to come to us because we're all there to work together.
Yep, absolutely. Yes. I know we're running on about an hour and a half here. I've got a couple of questions, but I have a couple more also, and we still need to play hit it and quit it, which is really quick. But we are going to play that at the end. You knew about that, right? Yeah, you did. I told you about the hit it. Yeah.
No,
okay. So here's another question.
Sounds interesting.
It's okay. It's safe.
A blast. New show coming up in La Crosse, Wisconsin. How did this come about? Why La Crosse? Tell us about La Crosse. Huh?
Well,
we know why, but please tell us about it.
Yeah, no. The simple answer for us is, we got our three locations that we had in our nice little corner of northeast Wisconsin going, and stuff was going pretty smooth, and people were asking us to put a show in this town and that town, and you'd really be surprised. So if anybody's familiar with northeast Wisconsin, we have a show in Green Bay and then Fond du Lac, obviously. And the amount of requests to put a show in Appleton absolutely blows me away. It's like 20 minutes south of Green Bay, or like 25 minutes. And it's like, it absolutely just blows me away. And we just can't do that. But, there's a lot of requests for some other.
Your request is on the back burner for a while.
Yeah, for a little bit.
We'll keep it in mind.
Duly noted, duly recorded.
But what it really came down to is just kind of looking at a map and looking at the cities and just kind of see what makes sense. Because for us, we don't look at it as competition. With other shows, I tell vendors, we want you to vend all the shows. Walkthrough. I wish the more people that we could get to go to every show in Wisconsin, the more reptile fanatics there would be, because that'd be pretty crazy. But if people are going to every show, they're obviously dedicated, and it's not just every one of our shows. So to get back to La Crosse, why we chose La Crosse, to us it kind of just only made sense. When you look at the map and look where other shows are, look where our shows are. Obviously, we wanted to add another location, and there's no other shows in La Crosse. So it really just made sense on a map and. With where other shows are and kind of with what we're doing. It's kind of that we're in this hour and a half little triangle in northeastern Wisconsin, and now we're branching out. It's about 4 hours west. So, it's a little bit out of our comfort zone, I guess, as well as far as the shows go. We've vended out in Minneapolis and stuff like that previously. But, it's just one of those things where to us, it only made sense. So we went ahead and started looking into it, and now here we are. In just a couple of days, we'll be out there.
Wow!
Yeah.
Saturday. I heard somebody say Sunday, but it's Saturday, right?
Saturday.
Yep.
Oh, I said it was Sunday, didn't I? Saturday, everybody. Saturday. I think this is going to be a blast for everybody that walks in for the very first time with no expectations whatsoever and finds out what these Scaled Up Expo shows are really about. And the vendors will greet them and say hi, and do you have any questions? And they can talk to somebody that is keeping animals the right way. This is going to be a great experience for the customers coming in, and certainly for the vendors, and certainly for you too. I have no doubts about it. Tell us, other than Sussex, Wisconsin, tell us the second next show that you guys are going to be doing.
Yeah, so we are looking at
don't spill the beans. If you have some secrets, don't let it out right now. But if there is
biggest
something coming up,
yeah. So I will say that we are planning on adding another location by the end of the year. We're hoping to have it it's set and ready to go to where we can have a show this year yet.
Cool.
So that is, I will say that much. But for us, the biggest thing is we don't like announcing stuff and spilling the beans on it. Yeah. Until it's 100%. We just don't want to get everybody's hopes up, just to kind of let you all down, I guess. But we're I guess if anybody has any guesses, they can message me. And I've had some people already like, oh, I think you're going to put a show here, and I'll just kind of let them think what they want to think, and kind of play along with them a little bit sometimes, because it's kind of fun for me.
It is fun.
But yeah, I will say that for sure we're looking at adding a 5th location, hopefully by the end of the year. So
Wow.
And my mind's off racing to 2 or 3 cities that I have a guess on, but I'm
Sussex
going to
is not
PM you.
Sussex is number 1.
Okay,
It's not it.
Heidi says the same thing, so
I'm
now
sure
you have
Sussex
2.
is not it.
So it's like a majority of people now. So
Oh wow, yeah,
Yeah.
Sussex is really gaining traction.
yes, we need more votes for. Come on, people, put your vote in for Sussex, Wisconsin. Okay,
If there's
5
enough
years
of a
from now,
public outcry, yeah, maybe
Public
we can make it happen.
We're gonna have a march.
we're gonna have a riot. We're gonna have a demonstration or something.
Yeah.
Please
We
don't.
won Sussex. We won Sussex. 5 years. Where are you guys going to be at?
Oh,
Did she
Oh
say
man,
home?
another Sussex. No.
I couldn't even tell you that, honestly.
So doing shows 5 years from now, doing shows. Brittany and I have always talked and kind of agreed that for us personally, it's definitely not a knock on any other, but anybody else doing shows. But for us personally, we never want to get to the point where we can't be there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just because we do have a very, very good thing going, and it's more like a family atmosphere as far as the vendors go and our relationship with the vendors. So I it's just not something that we want to miss. And so I'd expect some growth between now and then, but at the end of the day, there's only so many weekends in a year, and there's only so many cities to put shows in, and I don't necessarily believe in putting a show in another city that there's already shows existing. You know what I'm saying? So that'd be like if we went down and put a show in Racine. That just would not make sense. It's more of a detriment to the industry than it would be a positive. So as opportunities present themselves and as stuff makes sense, we'll be looking to add a show here and there. But we're really in no rush, because talk about 5 years, but we want to be here in 20 years.
Right.
But, we want to
There
be
you
doing
go.
this in 20 years. So, that's really, when you look at it as a long haul type of thing, we're really in no huge rush to go out and scaled up, bring scale up to anybody and everybody. Just more or less about what makes sense for us, what makes sense for obviously the business, but more importantly, what makes sense for the industry and the vendors. Because like I said, there's only so many weekends available, and there's already existing shows out there, and we don't want to take away from that. Because to us that'd be taken away from the industry. So.
A successful politician could not have said it any better. So hats off to you. I'm going to show this question. What steps did you guys take to actually become a vendor? Any advice for someone who would like to vend in the future? What's that? Did we talk about some of that?
Yeah. Well, yeah. You asked him what the vendor advice would be.
Oh, exactly. And I'm going to throw in real quick before you answer. If you have any other thoughts on that, I'll throw in real quick. If you're going to be a vendor, my number one rule is, just like you guys said, talk to the other vendors, walk away from the show, and don't look at your positives, look at your negatives so that you can fix your negatives. But like you said, Dylan, be positive, but stand up. If you can stand up at your table and at least show attention to people, if you can do that, please show that you're interested in them being there and wanting to talk about your animals.
One of my favorite icebreaker questions, because I know for some people it's a little awkward to start the conversation.
Yes.
If you're at a reptile show, my favorite question to ask a customer is, do you have any reptiles at home? And not only is that an icebreaker, but it also immediately lets you know who you're talking to. If you're talking to somebody who's just curious and looking, or if you're talking to somebody who knows exactly what they're doing and they have just as many reptiles as you do. So that is my favorite, absolute favorite. And then following up on that, it's, what do you guys keep, or are you interested in anything? Like what animals are you interested in? And, we sell leopard geckos, and obviously there's way more out there than just leopard geckos. So depending on what the answer is, if they're interested in bearded dragons, I start a conversation about bearded dragons. And then, are you interested in any morphs? Are you interested in any colors? Are you looking at any of the breeders here? And, if you can do that with everybody that walks past your table, you'd be surprised on the amount of connections that you make just right there. Just with it starts with one simple question.
Mm-hmm.
His other question was, how do you actually become a vendor? So you would just contact the organizers of that show, I would assume.
Yeah, for us, we have an application on our website, so you could either just message us or shoot us an email, or just skip that and go right to the application. But for other shows that we've personally vended, some of them you just send the organizer a message or reach out to the Facebook page, and they tend to get you taken care of. It's generally speaking not hard. It's just a formality of filling out the correct paperwork or talking to the right people.
Yep.
Frank, would you mind posting the Scaled Up Expos link one more time in the comments so people can see that and go to that link and find out what all shows are coming up, and if they're interested in becoming a vendor, they can go to that link and get more information on that. Abby is asking, I'm assuming that you need to carry insurance for events. Is it difficult to find insurance for reptile shows? Good question, Abby.
We do. Yes.
Yeah, so we definitely do carry insurance. So it depends who you talk to. Like we've gotten denied by insurance companies just because it's too risky, I guess. But there's definitely insurance companies out there that'll cover you. So I mean, if you have a local insurance broker, that's probably a good place to start.
Mm-hmm.
Or else just a quick Google search kind of gets you going in the right spot. But definitely it would be, knock on wood once again, nothing crazy has ever happened at one of our shows and at any shows that we've ever vended. But for the off chance that something does happen, you definitely should have insurance just to protect yourself.
Good call. Good call.
And actually, a lot of venues require you to have insurance too.
Mm-hmm.
So that that you kind of have no option.
It just makes sense from a liability standpoint as it is. Thank you,
100%.
Frank, for sharing that. I have 48 more questions, but in lieu of the time, and Frank will say, let's go 24, but I know you have homework, so I guess we have to move on here. Let's play Hit It or Quit It. So this is pretty simple, and I don't know if you've ever seen anybody do Hit It or Quit It. These are simple, quick 24 hours. See, I told Frank would want 24 hours. This is simple. I'm going to read a question. You got to answer like that. This is kind of almost like you're in the psych and you have to just first thing that comes to your mind. And you don't get to explain. You don't get to say, well, the reason that I said, hit it and quit it. It's in, it's done, it's recorded. I might take clips out of here and use them for TikTok if it's something really fun. So here it comes.
Blackmail,
Ready?
hey?
Mm-hmm.
Or blackmail. Of course, blackmail.
Yeah.
That Sussex show.
Yeah. What the? I'll trade you this for a Sussex show. Okay, hit it or quit it. Favorite food. And I'm going to ask both of you. So whoever jumps in first. Favorite food.
Spaghetti.
Pasta, yeah.
Pasta. Lasagna for me. Okay. Favorite sports team. Nobody asked me. I know. I'm sorry.
Packers.
Packers all the way.
Packers. Okay,
I
we're
might get
on the
disowned
show.
for my family if I didn't say Packers.
Okay, all right.
Love it. I asked about favorite food, but again, Frank would be upset at me if I didn't ask waffles or pancakes.
Waffles.
Pancakes.
Ooh,
Sorry, Frank.
Is there between the two of you a little
Every once in a while.
lockdown?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think she'd probably prefer French toast.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I like that. A little cinnamon on top.
Okay, now we're elaborating.
White
Oh,
powder.
no.
You don't
Oh, I'm breaking the
understand
rules.
what hit it and quit it.
Who made this game up? Come on. Regular chocolate or dark chocolate?
Dark
So
chocolate.
Regular
What?
milk chocolate.
You were talking. I didn't hear their answer.
Milk chocolate.
Dark chocolate.
Milk chocolate. Okay. Monopoly, Trivial Pursuit, or some kind of other card game.
Monopoly.
Card games.
Euchre?
Smear. Cribbage?
Yes, cribbage.
Yeah.
Sure. That's a northern Wisconsin person for you.
It
Okay.
is.
Mhm.
It is, yes.
Favorite binge watching show from the last 10 years or so? Something that you said, oh my gosh, we watched the first one. We've got to watch every single episode of this show. So let's
TV
sit
or
down.
movie?
I know you guys don't have a lot of time, but what did you sit down the last 10 years or so and say, we've got to watch this whole series?
The Walking Dead.
Yeah, The Walking Dead.
Really?
Oh,
Really?
interesting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Would you watch it again, knowing?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't.
Oh.
I don't watch a whole lot of TV.
Okay. You've got 1 week. It's a free week. You don't have to work with geckos. You don't have to plan for a show. You don't have to do nothing. And everything is paid for you. Where would you go on vacation for a whole week?
Wow.
Australia.
That's a good answer. Disney World.
For a week?
For a week.
Look at Dylan for a
Yes.
week.
For a week?
Yes,
There's a lot
absolutely.
to do.
There is. My time
These
would
are
be
interesting. These are interesting questions, anniversary present, that we're asking here for you too. Hopefully he got
filled. Thank you,
that.
Wally.
I got you. I got your back.
She'll get you Sussex now.
Music
If you get it.
genre.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. I want lasagna. Music genre when you're working with the animals. So you guys are, and I know Brittany already what she's going to say, but if you're down in the facility, or if you're in the facility working with the animals, what do you flip on right away? Okay, this is going to keep me going.
Reggae for me.
Wow.
Yeah, and I don't listen to music, so I will watch a show.
I don't even know
But if-
you anymore.
I know. Crazy.
That is crazy. We're coming back to that. Okay. Reggae, really interesting. Okay, I know I can't ask why.
Good vibes. Good vibes.
Yeah, I can see that. As close to reggae as I come is Eric Clapton with I Shot the Sheriff. But anyways,
Yeah.
cricket, right. Crickets, blessing or curse?
Curse.
Yeah.
Terrible.
I don't
Two
think
thumbs
anybody
down.
is. Yeah, I don't think anybody has said,
Nobody's
yeah,
blessed.
crickets, yeah, baby. Favorite
Love
thing
to
to
hate
do?
them.
Yeah, yes. Favorite thing to do in the facility when you're working with the animals? What's your absolutely favorite thing to do?
Put babies away.
Look at babies, I was going to say. Yeah.
Surprisingly, I get mixed answers with this, but for me, it's 99%. My favorite is babies.
It's not your game.
It's not my game. Okay. What's your least favorite thing to do in the facility?
Mm.
It's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this. I want to just look at babies.
Poop.
Cleaning.
Cleaning poop. Interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We have gotten that answer a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's no fun.
You have a.
Frank has a quick.
Okay, let me show this. Wally or Nanette? Wally or Nanette? Pick one.
I plead the fifth.
No, you can't. You've got to pick one.
Well, then I got to pick Nanette.
Yeah.
Everybody does.
I'll pick
100%
Wally
got
just
to.
to
In
even
my
it out.
just to even it out?
Just to even it
100%.
out.
I'm not even a close second.
It's okay.
All right,
It's because we have too much fun observing things.
We do.
Dylan.
Yeah.
One thought about yourself or your business that you would like to share with everybody that they might not know, as kind of an ending to the show here. One thought you want to share with everybody
About
that
you
kind of
or the
tells us
business?
about you, about your business, about you, about Scaled Up.
If it's one word, I would say dedicated. Just dedicated to the industry, to the hobby, the animals, the vendors, just kind of dedicated to it all.
Inspired by the vendors, by the walkthrough, the new communities coming in and learning and coming away with information, new friends, new animals.
Since this is my show, I get to come in with a second word for both of you, and that's passion.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I would agree with that. Yep.
Organized, passion.
organized, yeah,
Organized,
absolutely
very
organized.
organized. Friendly.
I can't thank you enough. I said earlier in the show, and people might not have gotten it, but this is a show weekend, and you guys have just now given us almost 2 hours.
They're
and
doing
it
two
certainly-
shows this weekend.
They're doing two
They're
shows.
doing
this
their own
weekend.
show and another
show, right?
Yeah,
they're doing
yeah.
double shows.
So
Yeah.
I doubly thank you very much for coming on here and giving us so much time and
Absolutely
so many
not a
great
problem.
answers.
Driven. That's
Driven.
another driven. Do you
Good
guys
answer,
have to
Gary.
set up the show for Saturday yourselves again, or
Nope,
No.
they should have everything set up for us.
so you can go in tomorrow and just be ready to roll?
Yeah, we'll be
Yeah.
on the road tomorrow about 9 o'clock, and then get out there, have dinner, relax, and then cross your fingers everything goes smooth Saturday morning.
It'll go awesome
It's a-
Saturday.
It's our first
It will.
time at a new venue, so there's always the venues have to learn what we do as well,
Mhm.
and kind of the way we do things. So there's always a couple things that we're going to have to critique or fix or move around a little bit. But the lacrosse center where we're at has been absolutely amazing, and it might be just our experience and stuff too at this point, but this is most definitely the most confident I've ever been going into a new location. So
Yeah,
Good.
definitely.
yeah. I'm definitely. I'd be lying to you if I said I wasn't nervous a little bit, but definitely excited, for sure.
You guys will do a really good job, and I'm sure it'll be a great success. Sorry we can't be there this time.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hold it to you. That takes points away from that Sussex show.
It does.
Oh, shoot. We've got to work on that. We've gotta work on
They're
that.
sold out for the show. We can't even make it work.
I have no doubt about it.
We'll just show up and say, we signed up.
Yeah, right.
Look at Brittany. She's like, you'll
No.
never see Sussex.
And we had 4 tables. Where's our 4 tables?
Yeah.
Sussex will never happen.
I have, again, 100% confidence in you guys. I have 100% confidence in the vendors. You never know, but you guys roll with it as well as anybody. And even though it might feel for you guys, a copy and paste kind of situation right now, I know you're planning. I know you're hesitantly optimistic, and that's the best kind of attitude that you can certainly be in with things like this. But of course, wishing you all the best and wishing the show all the best. Don't have any less expectations. You guys are going to do great.
We appreciate
Yeah,
that.
thank you.
Thank you for bringing so much joy to reptile keepers here in Wisconsin. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's absolutely our pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. This has been another wonderful show. I appreciate everybody watching all the way to the end here, and we'll see you next week. Same bat time.
Thanks, Frank, for helping out.
Thanks, Frank. Bye-bye.
Good night.